please like if you would please like and share and repost as well, and comment in the comment section below the city that you're from. And if you are a part of any community outreach, please do not hesitate to leave that information in the comment section below as well. I will be more than happy to shout you out and share that information on this platform as well. We're going to get started in just a minute or so. I will go ahead and start my video because it is exactly 4 o'clock. Hey, beautiful people. How are you guys this afternoon? I'm excited to get this actual show started because I feel it's going to be a really, really good one. A really loaded talk topic, but just the same, being able to share some awesome insight and perspective this afternoon. So for those of you that are tuning in, as I mentioned, please make sure that you like and share. And in the comment section below, please feel free to drop any community outreach that you're a part of so that I can share that information here on this platform. I'm all about sharing the wealth. So make sure that you guys are doing that. And for those of you that will watch the replay, do the same. Please like and share the wealth. We want to make sure that we are keeping these conversations going and not limiting them to the 45 minutes that we have as a talk community together. So you guys have to excuse me. I lost my tone of voice last week and it's just not coming back. So if I sound a little bit off, it's because I'm trying to get my tone. Never lost my voice. I will not speak that out loud. I would just say that I lost my tone. So just wanted to give that disclaimer starting out. Welcome to TIFF Talks. Today is September the 12th, 2021. We are going to go ahead and get started for today's talk time. For those of you that are new to this platform, I am Tiffany, owner and operator of TIFF Talks, this platform here, where we share insight, where we share awareness, and where we discuss these uncomfortable taboo topics amongst ourselves as a community, topics that we're already talking about amongst our friends, our peer groups, at the barbershop, at the beauty shop, and even at happy hour. We discuss them here to empower the community with awareness and insight and education. And today is none other. We are going to be tackling another taboo topic. As I mentioned at the start of this season 3, we are entering a season of linear sequence. And if you guys aren't aware of exactly what that is, linear sequence is actually transitioning from one state of being to another in a progressive state. And during our blooming season, we talked all about how we're going to manifest and how we're going to take ownership of our energy and our finances and things to really kind of get us to the next stage. But it's important that we apply different tools to those things so that we can maintain this progressive state. So hence, linear season is all about that, about the tools so that we can sustain this bloom and continue to elevate. So that's where we are. And today we are going to be discussing another taboo topic, and that topic is going to be discipline. So for those of you that are new to this platform, I encourage you to stick around. And for those of you that are returning, thank you guys for remaining connected and for just being a part of the community. Your love and support does not go unnoticed, and we appreciate you guys. So today's talk guest is a longtime supporter of TIFF Talks, and a very near and dear person to my heart, and a very near and dear friend of mine. She is likely the most even-toned person that I know in my lifetime. I have seen her or witnessed her grow into this beautiful woman that she is today and truly live out loud in self-discipline. So we are going to be discussing a topic today that I know that she has taken ownership of and that she can share in the conversation to provide that insight and really just that awareness about her journey. So I'm going to ask her to go ahead and to unmute her mic and share her video so that she can introduce herself to everyone today.
How you doing, you guys? I'm Jennifer Herron. partnership of Loads of Love Childcare.
Don't shortchange yourself because you want. I think she said she want me to introduce her. Because if she shortchange herself, she know I'm gonna call her out on it. So everyone, another disclaimer: this is going to be a very candid show because she may seem shy, but she's not at all. So you want me to introduce you?
That's fine. Go ahead.
So she is a part owner and operator of Loads of Love, one of the early childhood education centers here in the Houston area. On top of that, she is a serial entrepreneur, always in the market for a new business investment, a friend to all. Definitely a plug in the community for anything that you are looking for, whether it's a bouncer, whether it's a good facial, whether it's a good meal, whether it's a good turn up or a party, you go to Jen. So that is Jen in a nutshell. And trust me, we'll get into more of her growth and how she's become the woman that she is today. So see y'all how she tried to play me. Anyway, so today's topic, as I mentioned, is all about discipline. And during our last talk time, we tackled that uncomfortability as it attracts to accountability, and really just being able to understand that all things definitely begin with ourselves, and each talk topic that we'll be discussing this linear season is going to be an inside job, and accountability being just that. We also really kind of narrowed down the understanding of an accountability partner, and understanding that you have to first be accountable to yourself before you can be accountable to anyone else, or even expect to share in an accountability relationship. So our talk guest on the last show, Rodney James, did just a great job at really tying together accountability and discipline, and being able to understand that when it comes down to accountability, this is a characteristic, a trait, a practice that we become familiar with at a very early age, even before we learn the true terminology that goes along with accountability. And it all boils down to being able to understand expectations. He shared a very kind of candid encounter of growing up where, as a child, he no longer had to show a report card because it was clear between he and his mom of what the expectation was. So he knew bringing home good grades was a requirement, and his mom made it clear to him. He clearly understood that she went to work and he went to school. So those are things that he, really early on tied into his own personal accountability. And I shared my take as being like an office assistant, like when I was in elementary school, and being able to be what's considered a tool of accountability, and being a tool actually really strengthened my skill set as a leader, as a person, with having these skill sets as accountability, being responsible. And we're going to build up on that conversation today. So to start out this discussion, I really want to get your opinion and your take, Jen, on how you feel accountability complements discipline.
So with accountability and discipline, people take it as a impact of when you say something about it or try to improvise it within whatever you're doing in the everyday life. They take it as it's something negative. And some people feel like it shouldn't be in a workplace, or it shouldn't be in a relationship, or it shouldn't be in a friendship. But sometimes in order for me to have a situation where it's discipline, meaning I'm setting a state tone, you have to be held that person or these teams players that you have on your job. You have to hold them accountable. Right. So in order for me to have discipline, I have to be held you accountable for anything that I said.
That's good. And I completely agree. I mean, these terms, discipline and accountability, we hear them so often in the workplace. And I shared my experience with the term accountability in my own personal workplace and the response that I got from my colleagues. But even in the home, even amongst relationships and friendships, those two things tie into place. When you set an expectation for a relationship or an expectation for a friendship, knowing that person, knowing that knows what the expectation is and what they're accountable of. When you live in the same household in a marriage, when you come into a marriage, knowing what you're bringing, knowing what you're accountable of, knowing what that expectation is, that sets a standard, that sets
Right.
the whole kind of tone, like you said,
Mhm.
of being disciplined in your relationship so that you guys can make it, if that makes sense. And so that it's something that will be successful, you know?
Right. And then with the, if we set a tone and then I'm holding you accountable and then you don't hold up on your end of what I'm holding you accountable on, and I say something about that, it shouldn't be where you close out or shut down or be to the fact to where it's something that you feel like you don't want to deal with. Because if we set a tone as far as discipline with it in whatever we're doing, then I should be able to be there and hold you accountable for it.
Right. I completely agree. And I know for sure that we'll get into like the response of discipline and people's response to discipline a little bit later. I know when it comes down just to the strategic planning of discipline, a lot of times people get so easily distracted. And I mean, you can wake up with a goal in mind. You can address or start this season, this day out with the goal in mind. Um, but those distractions are real. And
Yep.
it's so easy to just fall by the wayside of distractions. But truly, to be able to fulfill a goal, I think it's important to understand that fulfillment of that goal is solely with regard of discipline, like being able to have a consistent and persistent effort of moving toward a goal. And
Right.
some people don't necessarily wake up with that in mind. I'm one to truly believe that in order for me to be productive, I have to have like structure. Like I
Right.
have to have structure objectives. I have to have what's considered to me like an end game. I have to know like what the task is so that I can achieve it. And if I know like what the expectation is, if I know what my responsibility is, if I know what the objectives are, then I can easily make objectives. I'm sorry, I can easily set into place tasks so that I can achieve that one goal. So for me, I think it's very important to really kind of address that piece of the pie. When it comes down to discipline, is structured required? Because some people just kind of live this free flowing life, you know,
I don't
and
feel like,
I
I
don't
don't
know
mean to
if
cut you
that's
off.
true.
As far as the structure, um some things can be structured, but
Mhm,
if you wasn't taught, because discipline comes from when you're smaller, if
mhm,
you kids are like sponges, so if it's something that you've taught on an everyday basis from growing up to being grown now, it's going to be where some of the stuff that you did when you was younger, now that you're older, you should know how to structure certain things, certain capabilities,
mhm.
certain accountabilities in
Right,
order to be exactly where you need to be at the end of the day.
right. I definitely agree with that. And being a mom of two kids under the age of 5, I would have to say we live in a house of structured routines and schedules.
Mhm.
But my 4-year-old is a free spirit. I'm just gonna be very transparent. He is a free spirit. He has his own mind and his own being, and we allow him that room to be a free spirit. But for me personally, I feel that is truth in that. Um, Early education and early kind of training as children goes back to parenting, and something just as simple as getting ready for bed or something as simple as preparing for the next day. You learn how to do those things from repetition, from your mom either setting a schedule, your parents are your mom and dad setting a schedule, setting a routine, or even setting clear those expectations. And when my 4-year-old went to school this year, although we have that in our home, he was one that we did kind of part-time school to kind of get him, accustomed to what's going on. But he's very connected with his grandmother. So I was very concerned with him going to school full time because although the structure is provided here in home, he has some freedom when it comes to school. And I was very nervous that he wasn't disciplined enough to do school full time. And although everybody was like, he ready, he okay, he gonna be okay. I was nervous because I know my child. And I believe me, like I had a point the second week of school when he was like frustrated and crying and didn't want to go. Well, I was like, okay, should I keep straight or should I make this right and drop him off at mama's house because this what he know, just so that he can be okay. But I was soothed like the second and a half week of school going into the third week was because his teacher sent me a picture of him completing it was an activity that was focused on fine motor skills. And knowing fine motor skills, that's all about coordination.
Right.
And in order to be able to have true coordination, you have to be able to be self-disciplined. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I can settle. He's ready, knowing that he was able to complete this task. But these are things that we work on at home. So seeing him be able to do those things in another environment made me feel better. It also makes me feel better to know that he's able to self-regulate. I've always been a parent that wanted to make sure that my children can self-regulate and self-soothe, because if you can't do that as a child, then you will not be able to do that as an adult.
As adult, right.
And those things play into everyday life. So I'm interested to know your opinion of when it comes down to being able to self-regulate. How does that attribute to self-discipline and ultimately be able just to have like be successful in your daily practice?
Me, if I set my tone for the day, I can't, when I pull up to my center, I can't, whatever burdens or whatever ideas or whatever I feel like is overwhelming to me, I can't bring that energy into my workspace. Right. Or if I come home from work and the energy and the vibe that I have at work, I can't bring that home, because either at work, your staff is going to feed off of it. At home, your family is going to feed off of it. Right. So you have to be able to balance the two. So the discipline plays a part of, okay, if I set a certain tone in the morning, then in the evening, that same tone should be evened out. Or if I have something where it's something that I need to complete and I have set a tone or I've set a task and I've given myself this amount of time to complete this task, because at the end of the task, I want to be able to reap the part of the fruit of the success.
Right.
My thing now, as I've gotten older, I've learned to deal with certain things, but accept whatever the outcome is. Meaning that if I expect this out of whatever I'm doing, it could be out of just a conversation. It could be out of me growing myself growing myself within business, trying to move forward within situations that I felt like I dealt with as a child, anything, long as I set the pace and figure out ways to accommodate throughout the day or throughout the week or anything like that, then I'm disciplining myself to where I'm not just rushing.
Right.
But reaping from whatever the ending part is going to be.
Right.
And being okay with it.
That's good. That's really good. That makes me think about this. It was a experiment some time ago that actually resurfaced itself in a TikTok type thing. And it was where a child was given a certain amount of snacks. And the snacks were put in front of them, and it was like 2 or 3 or like a small number of snacks, and they were given the instruction of not to eat the snacks. And if they did not eat the snacks, then they would reap the reward or would get more snacks if they did not eat the snacks at that moment in time. And I truly believe that when it comes down to self-discipline, especially, it's all about a daily practice. It's all about consistency. It's all about being persistent. It's about being able to take ownership of those
Yep.
things, knowing that there's a greater reward on the end.
Yep.
And oftentimes I think we as adults are just like those kids. Like, we get so anxious with what we see in front of us that we'll jump at what's in front of us instead of holding on and being able to self-regulate, being able to have self-restraint in order to get to the end goal. And let me be clear, I'm not saying that it's easy. I
Oh,
truly
no, it ain't
believe
easy.
it's not easy
It's not
at
easy.
all. I truly believe that when it comes down to self-discipline, there is the greatest counterpart to self-discipline is patience.
Right.
Because oftentimes when it comes down to patience, that's where you learn how to be disciplined, you know?
Right.
So with that, I really kind of want to gauge your insight on what are your thoughts about discipline as it relates to patience.
Anybody knows certain things I do not have patience for. I do not have patience if it's gonna be to the point to where I have to keep overthinking the same thing and I want it to happen right then and there, then patience just out the window. But I've learned that being in the business and the field that I'm in, I have to have patience with not only my kids that I look after on a day-to-day basis, I have to be patient with my staff that I'm with on an everyday basis, because at the end of the day, a lot of people can't balance. A lot of people don't know how to discipline. A lot of people wasn't taught to be disciplined as an adult. Some parents, maybe when they was 18, hey, 18, you on your own. I don't know what to tell you after 18.
Right.
So sometimes us as adults, we get lost in certain things as far as being disciplined. But the fact of discipline and having patience, the patience would be knowing that I'm setting something or trying to achieve something and being patient to wait and see what the outcome may be. And knowing that if I put in the effort to do what I need to do to get where I'm trying to go, then I know that the patience and the discipline will play together.
I like that. I like that. Knowing that in order to be successful in my outcome, that discipline and patience is going to have to coincide.
Yep.
That's good. I completely agree with that. Let me shout out a few people. I see some people have come in. I see Gwendolyn Michelle Williams is joining us. I see Ken Shay has joined us. I see Dana Morgan has joined us, and some people from IG has also joined us. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please make sure that you like, share, and repost. And also continue the conversation. We want to hear what you guys have to say about discipline and about patience here in the comment section as well. So to kind of get back to that thought, Jen, about discipline and patience coincide. I remember, I think it was a sermon that I had heard some time ago, and the preacher had identified discipline as saying that discipline is not telling you to move. No,
Right.
it said discipline does not require you to move. Discipline requires you to be patient. And for me, when I heard that, of course, I'm in the word, I'm in my feelings, I'm getting my Jesus. It went over my head. But when I went back and I picked it apart, and when I played it back on my way to work, I was like, you know what? That is all truth. That is all truth. When it comes down to being disciplined, it's not a part of just saying, okay, I gotta move, I gotta do this, I gotta get fast, I got. It definitely requires you to have some effort. It definitely requires you to have consistency. It definitely requires you to be persistent in what the end goal and what the objective is, but it requires you to be patient with yourself, because you said it true. Like, everybody is not able to balance just everyday life or everyday things, and we have to be patient with other people, but we also have to be patient with ourselves.
Sometimes, and I say this all the time to my friends, regardless if it doesn't happen today, doesn't mean it's not gonna happen tomorrow.
Right.
Meaning, give it the time, and long as you put towards the effort, when it finally pays off and
Right.
it be worth it, then
Right.
the end of it is going to be truly worth it, so where you'll be able to reap what you already been putting into play.
Right.
But it's gonna take that patience for you to slow down
Right.
and accept the defaults that's gonna happen in between where you trying to go and where you trying to get to.
Right. Right. I completely agree with that. And I think for me, when I truly think of discipline, it boils down to kind of that grit of being able to choose what's right versus what's easy.
Wrong.
Being able to truly understand like purpose over like purpose over profit in business. Truly being able to understand like not wasting the message on conflict. I think so often when we come down to self-discipline, we quick, like I said, to jump at the situation in front of us instead of
Mm-hmm.
taking time to process. And I'm guilty of taking time to process and kind of stepping back to say, okay, is this worth my peace at this moment? Is this worth my energy at this moment? Is this 2 minutes in time going to matter an hour later, the next day, the next moment in time, the next week? And I think if we all can get to a point where we understand that piece, then practicing self-discipline would be
Mm-hmm.
so much easier.
Yep.
Balancing self-discipline would be so much easier for each and
Yep.
every person.
I agree.
So we're at the point of the conversation that I want to get your take on how can people truly and in like a practical way learn to practice effectively self-discipline and discipline in their daily lives.
Knowing that no matter what, you set your ability to set yourself to do what you have to make things happen at the end of the day. No matter if you feel overwhelmed to everyday life,
Mhm.
because you might get something thrown where you might have to stop one task to run and go do another task, or you might have to stop one goal to do the goal that you should have did before you did that first goal to get where you're
Mhm.
trying to get to that next goal, because the way you listed your goals might not have fallen in place. You might have to do one that was on line 6 before you can do the one that's on line 2. So
Right.
it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process. And then it's a process where it's something that you need to start doing or try to do on an everyday basis. And once you do it on an everyday basis, it begins to not be a practice, but a habit.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And I think when it comes down to making things a habit, good habits are things that if you don't do it, you feel guilty about it.
Right.
So, one thing for me, I have been like, oh, I need to start working out. I need to get myself together. I need to do this. I need to do that, whatever, whatever. And it had just kind of been in the back of my mind, to say the truth. And for me, it started with small steps. So I park on like the 7th floor at my job. And I do it on purpose. One, because it gives me the opportunity to take the stairs up. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
7 flights of stairs. And hey, the first week, maybe I was out of breath, taking breaks on every other, stairwell. But
Mm-hmm.
now I can go up to stairwell 5 before taking a break.
Right.
And for me, when like this past week, when I wasn't feeling as good as I usually do, I didn't do it, and I felt bad about it.
Right.
It's that good habit that I had
Mm-hmm.
practiced, that I've been doing for at least maybe 3 weeks now. That it's a habit for me. It's a routine for me. And I'm one that does well with routines. I have to literally write everything down. If I
Yep.
don't write
Definitely.
it down in my head, it don't happen. Down
Definitely.
to like using my calendar, using the task feature on my phone, using like everything I make. Google does very well by me. Down to like writing out my bills. But
Mm-hmm.
these routines are things that help me to make sure that I stay disciplined in my spending habits, stay disciplined and making sure that I'm following up on things, that I'm responding to emails, that I'm
Right.
taking care of business and setting aside time for those things. And
Right.
that's, things that work for me practically. When it boils down to self-discipline, I am very big on prayer and meditation. And even when my body doesn't feel good enough to, get down on my knees and pray, I have to find a way to create my own altar so that
Right.
I can pray and meditate, because I know my body may not feel it right now, but my body is going to thank me for it later. So I feel that when it comes down to both discipline generically and self-discipline, for me, it's all about routines. It's all about habits. It's all about setting a schedule, because that's what works for me. And that's what I know I'm going to be thanked for later, if that makes sense.
Right. And I like the idea, because I'm a writer. I write everything down. Because I always like to go back, and if something doesn't play out the way I wrote it down, then I try to go back and take notes to see what I can do different the next time I plan something out. That way you're getting in a habit of self-checking yourself.
Yeah.
So you're self-checking yourself on your discipline that you set. And then that way you can hold yourself accountable for certain things that you have going on in everyday life. Because if you can't hold yourself accountable, then you can't hold anybody else accountable for things that you expect from them.
That's true. That's true. And I know one thing that you and I talk a lot about amongst ourselves are kind of like our exposure to discipline, our exposure to accountability at an early age, and how those things play into our life as adults. Everybody does not have the same desires. Everybody does not have the same goals, the same life objectives, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. For me, it's all about that end game, that whether I have to take the scenic route and you take the highway, as long as you get there, as long as I get there, that's what matters at the end. But being able to understand that these early education exposures and experiences plays into your adulthood and plays into like your everyday life, your interactions with people, your social skills with people, you know.
A lot of times I get into where it's thrown in my face, oh, I wasn't raised like you. I wasn't exposed to the type of things that you was exposed to. And I be wanting to say, well, it wasn't my fault, this. But to at the same time, you can't do that. So that's when the discussion comes, okay, well, how was you raised? And I tell you how I was raised, to see where we can kind of meet in the middle. And you're always going to agree to disagree. That's a part of anything, partnership, relationship. That's a part of friendship. That's a part of raising a kid. That's a part of, say, if you blending families together. That's a part of me being a daycare owner and I'm getting kids, that I feel like the education level should be way more than what it is, or I feel like the discipline level should be at a certain point. But at the same time, everybody, grown, young, or not raised the same to everybody's expectations. So that's when you have to go into a process where you and the parent or you and the person can come and be disciplined together and then hold each other accountable. So a lot of times, being in childcare, I'll set certain disciplines as far as with my teachers and my students, because my expectations is a certain thing. So then I go in the process of letting the parent know, hey, this, and then I hold the parents accountable to help me get the kids where they need to be at.
Right.
So now I play a lot as far as the discipline and accountability dealing with in my business. Being that my business is more family oriented than anything, the conversation is lightly. It's not where, if I'm communicating with a parent or anything like that, it's not where they're taking it in defense. So it's basically like we're helping each other.
Right. And you mentioned that earlier, and Rodney definitely had a lot to say about the message behind accountability and discipline, and being able to understand that it's not going to always be received the same, and how one receives it is going to be dependent on, one, your relationship with that person, your rapport with that person, but also if they're ready to receive it. We've made like very clear, like this season of Tiff Talks is going to be all about like challenging you as a person. It's going to challenge me as a person. But being able to be challenged will also elevate you to a place where you didn't even know that you can accomplish. So I think it's important that when it comes down to receiving the message, that we understand as the recipient that is always coming from a good place. And then as the person that's giving the message, being able to understand that it's not necessarily always the message itself. Sometimes it may be the tone, sometimes it may be somebody else's inside job that
Right.
they're working on and working through. But it's all about, like we said, being able to extend grace, being able to extend grace to ourselves, but also to each other, because at the end of the day, we all have our own things that we're working through and working to.
Right. Right. Because you never know when you wake up in the morning. I might be going through something and somebody else might be going through something else. But two at the same time, if you're able to balance
Right.
your thoughts,
Yeah.
your everyday process, what you thinking, how you feeling, and being able to balance all of those, and know that if you set these standards and these tones and these tasks, then you can accomplish whatever you accomplish, no matter where you coming from, no matter what you grew up on, no matter what you're dealing with on an everyday basis. You can get and try and be the best that you can be at the end of the day.
Right. Right. That's good. That's really, really good. So we're at the point in the show where I ask my guests to share what's considered their testament for today. And that is, out of all the discussion that we've had during this talk time, what do you want to be sure our audience takes with them and carry with them in order to move forward and to transition into this progressive state in our linear season?
Just being able to set your attitude at the end of the day. Set your attitude for knowing that becoming the key is success. Everybody doesn't start at the beginning where they trying to go. I didn't start where I wanted to go. What I'm doing right now, I've been wanting to do since I was 16. And I'm finally doing it, about to be 3 years in. So it's a process. It's not gonna always happen when you want it to be, but it'll happen right on time and when it needs to happen. And at the end of the day, you just need to be okay with it.
I like that. I like the testament of being able to understand that it's a process, and being self-disciplined requires you to be receptive of that process. I would have to say my testament and what I've learned through my own self-discipline and my own quest with discipline has been understanding that this journey of discipline requires you to be patient.
Right.
It requires you to be one that will extend grace to yourself, but also to others, and being able to do the work. Discipline is not something that comes easy, but it is something that you have to be persistent at, and that is going to require you to practice it daily. So if you are about being able to have a daily practice of bettering yourself, of making sure that you make it to the end game, to taking on the tasks that are presented before you, then you're on the road to being successful with practice and discipline.
Right. Right. And as long as you set your own tone for yourself, then everybody else should follow. And sometimes they might not follow.
Right.
But and just know that that's okay. That is okay, because at the end of the day, you set the tone for yourself.
Yeah, that's right. All right. This was good, Jen. I know you was nervous, and it's okay, but
I was nervous at first, but it's fine.
But this was
a topic. This a little touchy topic, but
but you did it, and you made it. You set the tone, Jen. So a couple of announcements before we wrap up today's show. If you have remained a part of our IG community, then you will see that we posted the very first sneak peek of Tiff Talks Community Empowered Volume 3, our Harvest Empower edition, that's actually going to be released on September the 22nd, which is the first day of fall. So yesterday we had an amazing photo shoot with our photographer, Black Queen Media. Shout out to her. With all the ladies that were a part. I worked very hard to make sure it was balanced as far as our entrepreneurs, but the reign of the woman continues. I'm sorry. So this feature will And this feature will include a number of women from all walks and all industries of life and in business that are celebrating a milestone in their business this 2021. And I'm so anxious for you guys to read their stories, to share in the editorial. And that, like I said, is going to be dropping September the 22nd. I also made note of, if you would like to purchase ad space in the magazine, whether it be to promote a business, to promote a product, to promote an event, you are more than welcome to do that. You can reach out to me directly so that I can send you the order form and some past advertisements that we've done in previous volumes. So I will be happy to send that out. Do not hesitate to jump into my DM. The information is here. I want to thank our talk guest, Jen, for being a part, for sharing in this very candid conversation about discipline, and for really kind of breaking down some of those taboos and giving us your insight and your awareness to this topic. So we appreciate you for being a part. We
You're
want to
welcome.
thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you stay connected. Our very next episode is going to be on productivity, and that episode is going to debut live here on Facebook on September the 22nd, the 26th, I'm sorry, September the 26th at 4 p.m. So remain connected for that. And in the meantime, make sure that you continue to like, share, and repost this live feed and continue the conversation amongst your friends. And in the meantime, make sure that you guys keep talking.
Do not be afraid to fail.